It is now 6:30. I'd like to welcome all of you and those that will be coming online to Washington State Genealogical Society's Roundtable on Pioneer Pursuit. And I am Kathleen Wells-Sizer. I'm president of the society. And our other board members are Valerie Zimmerman. She is our vice president. Roxanne Lowe. She is our secretary and webmaster. Charles Hansen. He is our blog master. Frank McLean, he is our treasurer. And Diane Huckabee, she is our education chair. And past president is Jeannie Majewski, and she's the brains behind Pioneer Pursuit. We'd like to keep this to an hour. We want time for you to ask your questions. And the purpose of the roundtable is just for that, to understand the program, the forms that we have online, the resources that are available to you, and how the review process works. But we want to answer your questions. That's the most important thing, because we know there are questions out there. And so we're going to do about 15 minutes reviewing the program for you, 30 minutes answering your questions, and then there's going to be a short evaluation at the end. We want to know how we did. So I am handing this over to Jenny. Jenny, are you with us?
Jenny?
Well, we have, go ahead, Roxanne.
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and do this this part, or?
Yes,
okay, a little sidebar.
Go ahead, Roxanne. And
okay. All right. I'm sorry that Jenny Majewski is not with us. As Kathy said, she truly is the brainchild around this program. More than a year ago, Jenny approached us about having a being able to describe the and document every man, woman, and child in Washington Territory that lived in the territory on or before November 11th, 1889. And it took us a while, but we are thrilled to actually embark on this to get that documentation. And it's a testament to all of you showing up today. Hopefully you have some questions for us and we're going to be able to answer them. Our goal with this program is to document that pioneer and his or her two subsequent generations with documented approved sources. Right now it is called the Pioneer Pursuit Contest. The contest part of this was to generate excitement about the program, and we have prizes, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on this evening. But the program is going to live on. The program began on November 1st. It runs through October 31st of next year. We believe there are about 355,000 people who lived in Washington Territory on when Washington became a territory. And of course, there were thousands before that who were here maybe on just an interim basis. So we're a long way from documenting all of those. Your participation is so valuable. We really appreciate that. The goal at the end is to keep this program going and to make all of this information available on the website for free, so that if anyone is looking for someone that was a pioneer in Washington Territory, they can click on a link and the family histories will pop up for them, not behind any membership wall, free and open to the public. So thank you so much for helping us with this program. We are really pretty excited. All right, and now I'm going to turn it over to me. I'm going to share my screen. I want to walk through a little bit about the forms, the review process, and what to expect. There is a lot of information in the Pioneer Pursuit page. Here I am at the State Genealogical Society website, wasds.org. This is our homepage. Right here on the left, Washington Pioneer Pursuit. If you click on that, there are rules, and we'll go over these very quickly. Submission instructions. We've got the form. We have an example for you. We have an FAQ section. There's a contest flyer, hints and help, and then the index. First, let's go to the contest rules, if you will. If you click on that. The goal of this program is to provide those family histories for every person, man, woman, and child living in Washington Territory on or before statehood on November 11th, 1889. Now, I know there have already been some questions about, well, my ancestor was here in 1870 and then the whole family left. And yes, they still were here on or before November 11th, 1889. So yes, they are eligible for being in the Pioneer Pursuit program, if that's one of your questions. The submissions can be made by, if you belong to a society, or by individuals. You do not have to be a member of WSGS. We would appreciate it if you would join us, but it is not required. There are other organizations, historical societies have submitted information. The Daughters of the Washington Pioneers have submitted a lot of information already. We certainly appreciate that. The submissions must include source citations for that pioneer. And we'll take a look at an example. There are prizes. Yep, there are prizes. Let me go through those real quick. Local societies that have the most, this is the top 3 spots. Local societies that submit the most submissions based on the number of members in that society. There's a cash prize of $300 for the most. Second place, $200. Third place, $100. And even better, each society that participates will receive $20. Individuals submitting the most submissions, $150 cash for the most submissions. Second is $100, third is $50. And again, every single person who submits to the Pioneer Pursuit will receive a 1-year membership to WSGS. I want to take a look here real quickly at a submission example. So these are my people. This is Patrick Murphy and his wife, Mary Donovan, and their 4 children. They had 6 children, 2 of whom were born after the after Washington became a state. So here's what my application looked like. This is what the form looks like. You're able to download that off of our website, either in PDF form or in Word. You must show proof of presence in Washington Territory before statehood. You have to document each member of the family, including spouse and children. Sometimes we only concentrate on that head of household, but don't forget even the children, and I'll show you an example of that. You also document the same information for the next 2 generations, unless there are none. I'll show you an example of some source citations and acceptable proof. So here I am, this is me, basic information. My qualifying individuals are Patrick, Mary Donovan, Daniel, William James, Ella Joan, and John Patrick. And I have signed my form that yes, I authorize the state society to use this information for either published books, materials, online databases, or promotional information. Now, it's also important, I belong to the Grace Harbor Genealogical Society. Not only am I going to get credit, a little tick mark, if you will, for submitting, but also Grace Harbor Genealogical Society will also get credit. And I will get credit for all of these names, not just one submission, but for Patrick and Mary and Daniel and William and Ella and John Patrick. So 6 tick marks, if you will. All right. This is an example of what I submitted for approval. Each one of these reviews, after you've submitted the information, is hand-checked by one of the board members, the Pioneer Pursuit Review Committee. So your submission does not need to look exactly like this. We would like it to be in Word or easily edited, or I think it's called RTF or WordPad or something that's easily transferred. So, but this is what mine looks like. So here are my pioneers, my 5 people. Here's Patrick. He was the head of household, and I talked here about when he was born, when he died, when they were married. I capitalized these and bolded each name of the pioneer so that it was easy for the review person to find that. So I have Patrick, I have Mary Donovan. Now, what we would like with Pioneer Pursuit is for the pioneer and 2 subsequent generations. So Patrick and Mary, they had 4 children that are listed here. Daniel, this is my guy, this is my grandfather. William James, Ella Joan, and John Patrick. Now, they had children after this, but they were not born during the territory. I could have listed them, and I think I may go back and do that, actually, so that I have a complete family history. So let's take a look at Daniel. So Daniel was a pioneer because he was here in Washington State. This is my proof that all of these 5 people were here in Washington Territory in 1889. I used the Grace Harbor County Census record, and we love URLs. If you cannot put a URL as your source, if it's something that you only have a hard copy of or a scan or something, that's fine. You can attach that. Again, these are all hand checked, but we prefer if there is a digital link so that you could actually click on that and you would come here to the Washington State Archives, the census record, and here it is right here showing my people. And I won't need to click on that because we'll talk a little bit more about that. Let me get back to where I was. All right. So I used the same source for each of my people, for Patrick, Mary, and their 4 children. So Patrick and Mary had these 4 children. So they are the 2nd generation, Daniel and William James here. The 3rd generation of Patrick and Mary was here. This is my mom, Mary Patricia Murphy. And here are William James's children right here, Gerald, Harry, Muriel, and Doris. They were not pioneers, but they are part of the pioneer pursuit. They are the 2nd generation, the 3rd generation, I'm sorry, of Mary and Patrick. Now, Daniel was also a pioneer. So Daniel and 2 subsequent generations, Mary, Patricia, my mom would be the 2nd one. And here we have the children of my mom and dad. And we are all living. And that's, I chose to just type in living instead of the information. And that's perfectly acceptable. All right. I think we covered all of this information. Down here, in this example, I did use my Uncle Mike's name. He is living. I could have just put living because he's the 3rd generation of Patrick and Mary, but in this example, I chose to type in his name. So that's what my example looked like. And it was submitted, and my gosh, it was approved. So again, here is an example of the submission form page. You can click here for the PDF or the Word document. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the frequently asked questions that we're getting. And if you have a question that I don't cover, please put it in the chat. Valerie's monitoring that. She's can answer many of these questions, or she's able to group them together, and then when we get to a certain place, I'll ask her for questions and we'll kind of go through that. So what is the goal of this challenge? It's to research and document the family history of every pioneer who lived in Washington Territory on or before statehood was declared on November 11, 1899. We consider pioneers to be every man, woman, and child who lived here. We estimate there are about 350,000. And so we are encouraging researchers, don't forget Indigenous peoples, people of color, women, and children. We intend to make the histories accessible online for any family history researcher. After the contest ends, all the histories are going to be posted on the website. Let me tell you that this is inaccurate. It's old news, because this is what the index looks like. Right now, all of these names are available to you right now. So you can see we have received quite a number. Look at that Ellis family. Isn't that rich?
That's an offshoot of my family.
Lucky you.
The Ellises, yeah.
So here we have Mary Donovan. This is my great-grandmother. And again, you saw this already. So all of these are live links, and they will go to these family histories. So as the applications are approved by the committee, they're sent, and I add them immediately to the index. No sense in waiting around. We talked a little bit about prizes, a prize for everyone, top individuals and genealogical societies, and every society and individual that submits will be given a prize. The format that we would like is in Word or a text file. JEDCOMs are not acceptable. We do ask that you capitalize the name of the pioneer or bold. And again, because these are hand checked, we're just trying to make things easier for the checkers. It is not a die-hard rule. It's just something that we ask. So, how do you get started? One of the things that we would suggest is that you check that index to see if someone has already claimed or already done that family name. So maybe my cousins didn't know that I was going to do it, and they should check the index, see if it's already been done. We do not have a claim list. It would be just too hard to manage. So we are hoping that genealogical societies will say, hey, let's do our whole county, and let's break up the names and kind of assign them or keep track of them within their society. With 350,000 people, the chances of overlap is not impossible, but remote. And if that were to happen, we would get those two parties together and they could work out whether all the information is correct. The other resources that I would like to talk about is, I hope you all know about the Pioneer Certificate Program. Pioneer Pursuit and the Pioneer Certificate Program are different. The Pioneer Program and First Citizen, this is a certificate program. If you have a pioneer that you can prove the lineage from that pioneer to yourself and want a certificate, then this is the program for you. And I encourage anybody, I'm very proud of my certificate, and anyone who is interested in getting a certificate showing that they are their ancestor was a pioneer or a first citizen, someone who was here before December 30th, 1900. I encourage you to go into this program. Now, what I would do is, if you were looking for someone, you could look here at the Pioneer Index to see if those names have already been done. So I know that this is just the index. If you are a member of the state society, you have access through the members area for more complete data than this. This just gives you the information, the pioneer, date of birth, and where they came from. So all of these over here on the far left, PI, that means pioneer, or FC, first citizen. So Valentine Adam Sr. was here in Washington Territory before it became a state. So they are, Valentine here is eligible to be in the Pioneer Pursuit. So if one of these people is a person that you are going to be researching, definitely look at this information, because then we can just transfer that information over with a request from you. The other resource that I would suggest that you take a look at when you are starting this is the Pioneer Index. There is also another right here. Under help, hints and help, this third bullet, I think, is really important. No, I'm sorry, that isn't what I was thinking of. This is the one to take a look at the Pioneer Index that we just started. The other thing I would suggest that you take a look at is joining a Groups.io email list that where you can ask questions, pose. A lot of people use it to say, I'm claiming this family, I'm researching this family in Grays Harbor County, just as kind of an informational. It's just a really good support. I would suggest that you take a look at these archives, these territorial census information. These are all available at the Washington State Archives. The State Digital Archive resource is just amazing. And this is where I actually found my information. So also special census records. So, and here's the link for the digital archive. All right, more information on frequently asked questions. We just updated this today, so there's new information here. Getting started, who can enter the contest? Genealogical societies and individuals, anyone can do it. You don't have to be a member of the state society. You don't even have to be related to that pioneer. We encourage societies to get together and do their section of the county. The information we're looking for, of course, the regular information, name, date and place of birth, marriage, children, and don't forget to cite your sources. We talked about how many generations. At a minimum, we want the pioneer, his or her children, and his or her grandchildren, a total of 3 generations. One of Mary and Patrick's children was actually born a month before statehood, and he's a pioneer. What if some of the pioneers' descendants are still living? Again, I showed you an example of that. I put living on mine, but if you want to put their names, if you're comfortable with that, if they're comfortable with that, that's up to you. What if I find an inaccuracy on my or someone else's pioneer submission? And this has happened already. The information came over from the Pioneer Certificate Program. New information had come about since that submission for the Pioneer Certificate. So we left the information as it was submitted and then made a subsequent note to that there was other information. And that's what this means. A notation will be made on the file to show the revision. In the chat before we got started today, I heard that some of you belong to more than one genealogical society. Good for you. I belong to 2 genealogical societies. When I submit my application, can I give credit to both societies? Sorry, no. We know it's difficult, but you have to just list one on your application. We talked about there's no claim list. We encourage societies to get together and talk about dividing up areas to cover the whole county or precinct or whatever the division is. Here's a question that has come up a number of times already. In your index, how do you handle Native American individuals that have a single name? Let me show you an example of that. So we, after much conversation, we have elected to put in the surname column an asterisk. We know that before 1900, Native Americans did not have surnames like most Europeans and African American conventions. So we've elected to put an asterisk in that column if they in fact only had a single name like these did here. They were all born in Washington Territory, but this was their Indian name. And this was what was submitted by the in the application. Are the Pioneer Pursuit and the Pioneer Certificate program the same? No, they're not the same. Again, I talked about one is a certificate program. The other is to document with multiple generations and genealogies that is available to the public. I already have a Pioneer Certificate. Can I use that information for Pioneer Pursuit? You bet you can. All you need to do is complete the application form noting the name of the ancestor, the Pioneer ancestor, and send it to us, and then we will pull that information over from the Pioneer Certificate program right into Pioneer Pursuit. Your work will be done. This is another question that came up during the chat, and we've already addressed this. In 1861, my ancestral family lived in what is now Idaho, but was Washington Territory at the time. Are they eligible for Pioneer Pursuit? They sure are. Washington Territory was formed in 1853 and included all of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. So anyone living in that territory during that time is considered eligible to be a pioneer, a Washington pioneer. All right. And we know that there will always be other questions. We are constantly updating this frequently asked questions list. So visit it often. All right. For those of you that are interested, we do have a flyer. If you could help us promote Washington Pioneer Pursuit, we would love that. If you'd like a speaker, we have a couple of our members who have already spoken to libraries and genealogical societies elsewhere about the program and would be happy to come to visit one of your meetings on Zoom, or even if it's close by. Here is a list of hints and help. What to do to get started, some links. Again, here's this Groups.io group that is really helpful with some tips and asking clarifying questions. We monitor that very carefully, and there's just a lot of general chatter back and forth. There are a number of census records, 1885, 87, 89. Not every county did a census. Here you'll see Chehalis, now Grace Harbor, did one in 1860, 1871, 1885. And I also found one for 1889. So they are all listed here. Oh, I did not know that Kitsap County was called Slaughter County. Interesting to know. In 1890, a special census of veterans and widows is available on Ancestry. Again, all we need is that URL to that specific document showing where the where your pioneer was before statehood. And of course, here is our digital archives, just a wonderful resource for everyone. So that is my chatter. I'm gonna stop this. Valerie, were there questions that I need to address, or did you get everything taken care of? How's it going?
As fast as people asked, you were answering them. So,
Good.
however,
Okay.
I would suggest if anyone, and I did answer many of them in the chat, if anyone is unsatisfied with my answer, unmute yourself and ask alive.
Yes. Raise your hand or just start. We want to answer your questions or clarification. Anyone?
Yes, and we do have another 20 minutes or so, so feel free to.
Karen and then Allison.
So it wasn't that I was unsatisfied. I'm too long-winded to put it in the chat, so I didn't want to try that. So what should we expect when we turn in a submission? I submitted something in January. I received a thank you very much 4 days later. That was cool. Nothing's been added to the list. I submitted another one, and I hope the problem is not because they have multiple people on them, because I submitted another one on March 19th. And here we are, 5 weeks later, and I haven't even gotten a thank you. So I don't know if it was received. I don't know if there's a problem with it.
Okay, Karen, thank you very much for bringing that up. Mea culpa. When we first started receiving submissions, and you were one of the early ones, we had a little hiccup in getting information over to the review committee. I thought I had gone back through every email to make sure that I got everything. I don't remember that. If you will let Valerie know, well, no, now we know you made 2 submissions. We will look for that information. We will get back to you. You can expect the review is really pretty quick. Here's what happens. Karen sends the information, the application and the documentation to WA Pioneer Pursuit at gmail.com. And that information's received, and then it is sent over to the review committee, and one of the board members reviews that information, approves the documentation, and then it goes to me and I put it on the website. It's really pretty fast. If there's a hiccup, if there's something that's happened, we get back to you. There needs to be more documentation. We don't understand this. The link didn't work. There's, a number of different things, but we begin that conversation so that we can get it resolved and we can get it up, approved and on the website. So Karen, we apologize for that and we're on the lookout for it.
So one last thing, I think it's one last. You said that as long as a person was here and born before November 11th, 1889, they're a citizen. What if they were here and born and died before 1889? I took those off because I thought, I'm not going to fight that fight. I sometimes, a couple times, I couldn't even find a gravestone or anything, but they are no longer here and they're no longer listed,
Here's your basic question, Karen, or your basic answer, Karen. If any man, woman, or child that lived in Washington Territory on or before November 11th, 1889 is eligible to be in the Pioneer Pursuit program. So if they died before, if they just had to have lived here in Washington Territory, and you must have documentation for it.
Which is the census satisfies that, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So you showed a list that had the index. The ones that I looked at on the index under members have more people on it than that list that you showed
That is correct. If anyone had a Pioneer certificate, they must request the information brought over to Pioneer Pursuit.
So the list that's under the members that the members can look at, those are the ones with the certificates?
That is correct.
Oh, okay. Because I just thought, well, that's already done. So
Nope.
you don't have to do that. And so who gets to do that? Who wins? Yeah, because I didn't do, my great grandfather. Somebody else did that. And I looked and said, okay, so he's on there.
Okay, then Karen, if you didn't do your great grandfather and he's in the Pioneer Certificate Program, you can request that information by sending an email to info@wasgs.org. Valerie, will you type this in the chat? info@wasgs.org, and then I will forward that to Frank McLean, who I don't know if he's here, but he is the wizard of all wizards for the Pioneer Certificate Program.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
so much.
All right, other questions?
This
Allison.
has come up over and over. Keep in mind that we want every single pioneer to be in Pioneer Pursuit because it's public. Pioneer certificates, great. A bunch of different people could get certificates for the same person if they prove their own descent from that person. But if one of them doesn't submit them to Pioneer Pursuit, they're not going to be there. So somebody has to permit it or ask for it.
Okay, Allison, you had a question, and then Lori, you'll be next.
My question was the same as Karen's first question, in that I submitted one in January and I got a response, and he's not on the list. And then I submitted one later for a family and they are on the list. So
Okay.
I'm just not sure what I should do now about the first one.
Okay, Allison, would you send a private message, and Karen, would you do the same? Would you both send a direct message to Valerie with the surname, and we will track that down and include your email address? We're on it. We thank you for keeping us on our toes. We appreciate that. Okay, Lori?
Yes, Roxanne, thank you. He is, I saw military records is acceptable proof. Would a draft card be with the name and place of birth? Would that be considered a military record?
You bet.
Okay.
Yep, we'd love
Thank
that.
you.
Hey, Frank, are you on here? Frank. I see Jenny is here. Hi, Jenny. Jenny and Charles and Frank have been our big producers for reviews. So Jenny and Charles, you would accept a draft card, right? Yes. Yep. I'm going to bring up, I actually have a list here of some acceptable things. Let me bring it up real quick. All right. So here are some acceptable proofs: baptismal records, city directories, tax records, birth, voting records, census, of course, land records, wills. Here's military records. I do want to point out that other proofs may be acceptable, but will be determined on a case-by-case basis. We just last week got a question about someone had a newspaper record that their great-great-grandfather, someone had come into the area, but that's all there was. It was a newspaper article. We would not consider that to be proof. If there's backup information to that, great. We'd love to see that. All right. Other questions?
I just said that the video would be up for the duration of the contest of this presentation. Is that true?
Let's make it true, shall we? Okay.
Because somebody missed a part. So Yeah.
That's fine. Yes, we will definitely do that. Yeah, Hazel. You're muted.
yes, I've been muting people because the noise keeps coming up.
Okay,
So remember to mute yourself out when you're done speaking, please.
okay. Hazel, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, okay. What happened? Anyway, I was watching the chat and I think there were some people asking about if some software reports would be sufficient in place of the Word. And I didn't get to see all of it. So I'm not sure. Could somebody clarify that?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at Ginny and Charles for that. I don't know the answer. In the beginning, we said we wanted it to be Word. Oh, and Kathy, you've also done a ton of reviews. What about a report from a software program?
Well, I think it depends on what you're able to transfer, the technology behind it. Because what we first talked about was the Word document was the easiest one to transfer. JEDCOM, we could not. So I think that's why we specified the text or the Word.
Oh, well, no, I wasn't talking about JEDCOMs, but just printed reports.
Right, but we have to be able to transfer the information over
Okay,
into our files, the permanent data.
okay, got it.
Okay, Stephanie? You're muted.
Sorry
Again,
about
I've been
Sorry about
muting
that.
people. So
that. Excuse me. I just had a quick question about the software. So the word processing software. So I don't have Microsoft Word anymore. Is Google Docs okay?
I think so. Valerie, you know more about Google Docs than I do.
you can export a document. You can write it in Google Docs and export it as a Word file. So that's what I would do. That's what I usually do, actually.
That's a good idea.
I don't have Word either. Never have.
Well, I did, but then they got too ridiculous in their pricing. And so,
Well, I run Linux and it's not available. So there you go.
thank you, Valerie.
All right, other questions or questions that you put in the chat that you didn't get an answer for? You want?
Yes.
Who is that?
I have a
Oh, Chris?
question. What are JEDCOMs?
You know, I'm going to look to Ginny. Ginny is a professional genealogist. Ginny, are you able to, off the top of your head, talk about how great a JEDCOM is, and after you've unmuted yourself?
Okay, a JEDCOM is a term that for the language that the genealogical software programs use. And it stands for what? Genealogical data communications or something like that. So if it's put into that format, you know, you could transfer it from one program to another program, but we can't use that form of information to be able to open it up and make it a Word. Now, some of the genealogical programs will allow you to write a report, and you have an option. You can put it into Word or you could put it into a PDF. If you can transfer it into Word, that's fine. It works great. You can send in that report. If it doesn't, then, you know, what would happen was we would have to retype in the whole thing again. And that's just not feasible for as many applications as we're hoping to get.
Good. Thank you, Ginny. Other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Sure.
Let's see. I'm just wondering, oops, oh, well, forget that. Let's see here. Anyway, here we go. Let's see, one thing is that if I download the PDF and I fill in the form, then I can just email you the PDF.
Yes, we love it. We love email. And that's a great question, Shirley. We certainly love, we now have our process going very smoothly. So anybody who emails to the WA Pioneer Pursuit at gmail.com, that process to get to the review committee is now working great. We got it down. A little bumpy in the beginning. But if you are unable to do that, you can mail it to the Washington State Genealogical Society. Our emails on our website in Union Gap.
It's too bad that you can't take photos, that I can't send photos, because it would be fun to see, have a link to portrait for, whatever people have photos.
And that would be fun. Photos are always great. We feel very lucky and hopeful that we're even going to get pioneers and 2 subsequent generations of descendants.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Valerie, did you have something you want to say?
Linda put in, I just got muted. I did not get an answer to my question. Should I resubmit my question if a pioneer was submitted in the 1888, 1889 or 1988, 89 request published? Is that different from the pioneer pursuit of today? And I think we did answer it quite a few times. Yes, it is different, but all you need to do is write to us and tell us, I already submitted this. This is the person. Keep in mind, though, that if you only paid for one certificate and a man came with a family, the family are all pioneers. And so you might want to say, his paperwork's done, but so-and-so, 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 just like Roxanne's example, they are also pioneers, even the baby. But
Even
you're
the
going to
baby.
have to submit citations for the proof of each of those people that they were not just a pioneer family, but that each person that you're submitting is an actual pioneer, that they were here in November of 1889. Okay, hopefully that answers your question, Linda, precisely.
Other questions? Yes, Stephanie?
So this sounds redundant probably, and I think you already answered it. So technically, since my great-great-grandfather is eligible, so would his kids, right? Because they were with him before when it was still a territory. They were
Yep.
living with him. Okay,
They sure
so
were.
Exactly.
I could send in theirs also.
That's right. And
But, I mean, I
And-
definitely.
Stephanie, you do not have to send in separate application for documents. They can all be on one. On your application form, you just need to say, these are the pioneers, just like I did, including one who was a month old. He's still a pioneer.
Okay. Thank you, Roxanne.
Uh-huh.
Say, I have one more question. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
I sure can.
Oh, okay. And that is, when I'm in my ancestry program and I have, and I click to that there's a little story link, and then it will give me, it's kind of like its version of the person's life in a narrative that you can, I think you can block and copy it and paste it into a document. Is there, you said they didn't all have to be totally formatted the same. So I wonder if that ancestry format style is okay, given that we bold the names of the pioneers.
Yeah, we can absolutely. The key is to include a URL to the source documentation.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen all kinds of different formats. I know I
Well-
didn't, I know we didn't answer every question.
We probably did not, but it is 7:26. Maybe it's time for the what was the
Okay.
last step?
Well, let
Brain
me,
death.
we still encourage you to ask questions. You can send it to, Valerie put our email in the chat. We will get back to you. I will tell you that as you exit tonight, you're going to be asked 3 questions. We just want to know how we did with the roundtable. Did your questions get answered? What can we do to improve? You know, is there anything, you know, what did you like the best? So that's good feedback for us. This is our second roundtable that we've done. And so we take that information very seriously. And hope we answered questions and move forward with this great great program. I want to give all the credit to Ginny. This was Ginny's baby. Ginny, when did you first start this? It's been like a year and a half or more than that, wasn't it, when you first brought it up?
About 2 years since we came up with the idea, but it took a while to work through all of the process that we needed to come up with and try and anticipate the problems and so forth. So it's been a while, but I think it's a very worthwhile cause. If we can get that information up and posted, I think that is a great service that we can do to future genealogists.
I think a lot of people feel like Washington State is sort of a genealogy dead end. Everybody came here so recently, et cetera. But I think a lot of people are missing folks, and they came here. They didn't all go to California to dig for gold. Some of them came out here to mine for coal or cut down trees or fish or, you know, start a bakery. So folks need to know that Washington is part of the Union, and, you know,
Yeah,
they didn't fall off the edge of the world.
And again, I
Most
want to
of them.
remind you, you don't have to research your own family. You know, if you don't have, like Valerie didn't have anybody here, but she's still going to, she's going to take some random people and work on their genealogies, and we encourage you to do that.
For sure.
So with that said, I value your time. I so appreciate you joining us today. We're still open for questions. Check out the website. If there are questions that you didn't get answered, didn't feel like it was important, somebody else has probably got that same question, and we can put that in the FAQ. So as you exit, please take our survey and have a really nice evening. The nice weather is coming to Western Washington. Good night, everyone.